Once legal plunder begins occurring, history proves that each class or special interest group competes with the others to grasp and throw the lever of governmental power in their favor, or at least to immunize itself against the effects of a previous thrust. Labor gets a minimum wage. Agriculture receives a price support. Consumers insist on price controls. And industry gets protective tariffs. In the end, none of them are much further ahead. But all of them lose some of their personal freedom. The welfare state, and finally totalitarianism, has always been the end result when the principle of the protective function of government gives way to the aggressive or distributive function. This is a vitally important but seldom heeded lesson that history offers. It is people who work and produce, that create wealth. All historians know that no government in the history of mankind has ever created any wealth. According to Karl Marx, a human being is primarily an economic creature. In other words, man's material well-being is all-important. His privacy and his freedom are strictly secondary. The Soviet Constitution reflects this materialistic philosophy by placing its emphasis on material security: housing, food, clothing, medical care. These are the same things that might be provided in a prison. The basic concept is that the government has full responsibility for the welfare of the people. But in order to discharge that responsibility, it must assume absolute control of all their activities. It is significant that in actuality, the Russian people have few of the rights supposedly guaranteed to them in their constitution, while the American people have them in abundance, even though they are not guaranteed by our government. The reason is obvious. Unless the people bake one loaf of bread for each citizen, there will not be a loaf of bread for each citizen to eat. Constitutions can be written, laws can be passed, and imperial decrees can be issued. But unless the bread is produced, it can never be distributed. The American philosophy of limited government and individual responsibility has enabled us to achieve an abundance undreamed of in ancient times, and the principle behind it can be reduced to a rather simple formula. Widespread abundance must be achieved before economic security for all is even possible. Industrious and efficient production are necessary to create this abundance. Labor that is energetic, willing, and eager makes such production possible. Such labor can be obtained only with incentive. Of all forms of incentive, the freedom to attain a reward for one's labors is the most sustaining for most people. Sometimes called the profit motive, it is simply the right to plan and to earn and to enjoy the fruits of your labor. This profit motive diminishes as government controls, regulations, and taxes increase to deny the fruits of success to those who produce. Therefore, government intervention to redistribute the material rewards of labor results in the eventual destruction of the productive base of society. When this base is destroyed, real abundance and security for more than the ruling elite is quite impossible. This brings up the question of how is it possible to cut out the various welfare state features of our government. Drastic surgery is necessary, and like all surgery, it will not be without some discomfort for a long time to come. But it must be done if the patient is to be saved. Everyone wants to avoid the tremendous economic and social upheaval that would be caused if all the welfare state programs currently in force were dropped simultaneously. So the first step toward restoring the concept of limited government should be to freeze all welfare state programs at their present level. The next step would be to allow all present programs to run out their term with absolutely no renewal, and the gradual phasing out of those programs which are indefinite in their term. What about the lame, the sick, and the destitute? Is an often voiced question. Most other countries in the world have attempted to use the power of government to meet this need. Yet in every case, the improvement has been marginal at best. By comparison, America traditionally has followed Jefferson's advice of relying on individual action and charity. The result is that the United States has fewer cases of genuine hardship per capita than any other country in the entire world or throughout all history. Even during the depths of the Depression of the 1930s, Americans ate and lived better than most people in other countries do even today. The advocates of outright socialism find little acceptance today, but many people seem to be taken in by the argument that just a little bit of socialism is good, so long as it does not go too far. History proves that once begun, the socialist welfare state is difficult to check before it comes to its full flower of dictatorship. But let us hope that this time around the trend can be reversed. 3 factors may make a difference. First, there is sufficient historical knowledge of the failures of socialism and of the past mistakes of previous civilizations. Secondly, there are modern means of rapid and effective communications to transmit these lessons of history to a large, literate population. Thirdly, there is a growing number of dedicated men and women who, at great personal sacrifice, are actively working to promote a wider understanding and appreciation of the American concept. The timely joining together of these 3 factors may make it possible for the trend to be reversed. Freedom is fragile. It must be preserved if it is to be passed on to future generations. Every American who values his freedom should become alert for signs of danger. An alarming number of Americans are busily enjoying their freedom, but are indifferent and apathetic to the erosion of freedom. Their apathy is allowing America to be drawn toward the dictatorial federalism. The breakdown of law and order is occurring and increasing because the exercising of political expediency is crippling law enforcement agencies. Under the threat of pressure groups and constant propagandizement for change, America is condoning the behavior of a godless society. The question is, can Americans face up to and cope with such realities? The answer is in our hands. There is much work to be done. The time is short. Let us begin in earnest now, and may God bless our efforts.